I'm not Rickrolling you. This is just a joke to open up the video. Like, seriously, please. Okay, welcome to the second in my top whatevers. As the title implies, this will be my top 10 favorite Sonic games as of Q3 2010. I'm fully aware of the 3 new Sonic games coming out later this year, and although it would make more sense to wait till I play those games, then make a list, I'd rather not, because I made this list over a year ago, and quite frankly, nothing new has arrived to change that list. I may update it in the future, but for now, here is my current top 10. Before I start, allow me to call out my honorable mentions, games that almost made the list but sadly didn't. These games include, in no order, Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis, Sonic Heroes for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox, Sonic Rush for the Nintendo DS, Sonic Advance for the Game Boy Advance, Knuckles' Chaotix for the Genesis 32X add-on, and Sonic CD for the Genesis Sega CD add-on. If I had a number 11, it would be Sonic Triple Trouble for the Sega Game Gear. Number 10. Sonic Chaos for the Master System and Game Gear. A really addictive game with 8-bit Sonic done right. Not that I'm saying that Sonic 1 and 2 on the Master System and Game Gear was bad, but this one was far more polished and still offered a pretty solid challenge. The gameplay was a step up to say the least. It was traditional to its 8-bit predecessors as well. 2 acts with the boss at the end, except here there were hidden rings that you could find to help you out in the fight, whereas in Sonic 1 and 2, the boss act gave you no rings at all, which made them a lot harder than they should have been. Tails was also playable in this game. He was just as fun as Sonic, to be honest. And Sonic, on the other hand, was a bit more different and original, instead of just being the archetype of your status quo Sonic character. You just happen to run and jump and spin dash and whatnot. No. Sonic had his own exclusive thing that, in my opinion, was a bit better than the Instant Shoot, if you ask me. He had a bit of a standing version of the spin attack, which was in each Sonic game on the Master System and Game Gear, starting with this one. And it was also on Sonic CD. Why it wasn't in any Genesis game, I have no idea. But it's pretty pointless compared to the spin dash, but the novelty of it was rewarding enough. I mean, you can't deny that it looks cool. It's significant for its insignificance. Number 9. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. Being a retro fan, I may get a few ugly faces for adding this game so high on the list. Basically because this game is an all-time favorite for most people who know Sonic in general, especially the retro fans. And I'll admit it's a great game, but its appeal on me was not as heavy as it was for most others. Story-wise, the game was pretty damn epic and there is a backstory to an even more epic story. So why is this game so low on the countdown, you ask? Well, it's complicated. It's really just the gameplay. It's not bad or anything, it's Tails. To be perfectly honest, that's really the only problem with this game. He always gets in the way on the important parts of the game. You know, the boss fights or the special stages. He'll do something that'll cause me to get hit, lose rings, a shield, my life. He'll cause me to not be able to get the Captain because he gets them himself, and because of the reaction time, I have to play for 2 people. really, and he'll get hit, lose rings, and, well, I don't get the Chaos Emerald. Some people find a way to deal with that, and more power to you if you can, but for me, who's not that good at this game, it really kind of ruins it for me, you know? I know there's the option of choosing Sonic only, but it feels a lot more empty, as if I'm not getting the full experience. And I know it's a bit selfish to make this sort of conundrum with myself, but that's really just it. It's a really hard case of picking my poison, which is why I don't enjoy this game as well as others do. Number 8. Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast, or Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube. Arguably the last good 3D Sonic title, I'm sure everyone can admit that the scale of this game was epic. This game introduces Shadow the Hedgehog. This was back when he was a badass anti-hero, before he gained the terrible reputation that he has now. The gameplay was on par with the Sonic Adventure series, thus it felt traditional and had more of what the first game had, except the hub world. Like any game, it came with its flaws, but throughout all of them, I for one liked the shooting segments, and I could tolerate the emerald, key, whatever the hell, hunting. Almost everyone else hates that, but considering the age I grew up in, it's not that bad. It's a hell of a lot better than Metroid on the NES. But to be fair, the treasure hunting was bashed on not because of its lack of playability, but the fact that it derails from what Sonic is. Which I think is the backlash to most of the 3D Sonic games where people hate them. As for me, I can stand it easy. This is not a problem in my case. The other elements of the gameplay were also very well done and offered healthy challenges. The soundtrack was badass too. It was also the birth of one of the most memorable Sonic themes of all time, Live and Learn, which even non-fans will acknowledge that that song is pretty good. This game was truly one of the best ways to end the Dreamcast era. Number 7. Tails Adventures for the Sega Game Gear. Believe it or not, there was a Sonic game before Chronicles that was an RPG. That would be this Game Gear masterpiece, Tails Adventures. Chronologically, it happens immediately before Sonic 2 on the Genesis, or before the general time frame of when Tails meets Sonic for the first time. The plot is his forest was attacked by evil ducks or something like that, and Tails tends to every single one of them with a variety of bombs and other items that he acquires in the game. He levels up every time he finds the Chaos Emerald. What this does is increase his HP by 10 and allow him to fly for longer periods of time. This game has also proved that Tails' mechanical genius was not tacked on in the modern game. He's actually quite of a little genius. He has a little buddy robot that transforms into a submarine and is also an environmental scouter, which is pretty handy. And Tails also has a workshop where you can exchange between items and submarine weapons. This game is a lot bigger than it looks, and it can be beat in one city, but it's going to take you an extremely long time unless you're speedrunning or something. It has a surprising amount of depth for an 8-bit game on a handheld console, and if you can get into it, it is an addictive blast to play. Nice boss fights, pretty interesting areas, and not a bad soundtrack to be honest. Definitely one of those games that every Sonic fan should play, but unfortunately doesn't. Number 6. Sonic Advance 2 for the Game Boy Advance. One of my cherished preteen, early teenager games, Sonic Advance 2 was a game that I was never in the mood not to play. I remember getting it May, June of 2003 from graduation money given by my grandmother. And from there I played the game every day until my Game Boy Advance broke. Just about 2 months later. Well, it's a good thing that I eventually got a DS many years later and bought the game again, and enjoyed it since. The game was fun, had a badass soundtrack, exhilarating gameplay, it was just simply fantastic. There isn't all that much left to say about the game. I mean, I loved it more than Sonic Advance 1. Sonic Advance 3, I'll admit, is better than 2, but I didn't play 3 until many years later.